Hey folks, how's it going? Well, a lot of you have been asking me about the Turbo 200 R4 that I'm putting onto my 1972 Olds Vista Cruiser. Well, I'll show you some things that have been going on with it, some of the rebuilding process, some of the parts that I've had to replace, and how to tell some good parts from other parts. I guess it all depends on your point of view and how you're looking at things and from what angle. I guess we're on quite an angle right over here right now. Well, let's come back to a regular position right now, right side up, look at the world from the right view of things. There's the transmission itself. I've got it pretty much cleaned up and put together. The rear planetaries, the sun shell, the sun gear is back in, and all the major components in the back of the transmission, including the clutch plates for the low reverse. This device over here is a low reverse clutch. Hydraulic pressure gets applied through this hole over here, pushes a piston and engages this clutch. That's how that works. So a whole myriad of valve body passages in this unit. This is a 4-speed overdrive automatic transmission. As I said, a Turbo 200 R4. Control of this device is through a piece called the valve body. Hydraulic fluids, transmission fluid flows through all these circuits and gives you the various gears. Transfers to this plate. You can see there's various size holes in it. Now, depending on the size of holes and where they go to, it gives you either a harder shift or a softer shift, and that's what shift kits are all about, of what we'll see in a couple of minutes. So it goes from the valve body over here to the transfer plate to the case passages, which then goes to various application elements that apply your various clutches and bands. Supplying all the hydraulic pressure for this unit, it's a transmission pump. This has been rebuilt over here, lots of C-clips and devices on it that control the hydraulic pressure for your reverse. I'm a boost of pressure in reverse, and you have a torque converter lockup valve over here as well too. Washers that take up the slack. Yes, they're plastic, but it's amazing how well they do with a little bit of proper oil. And this is where this transmission happened to fail, which we'll see them a little bit later on. Just some more of the components that are involved with this transmission over here. And you have accumulators that make like a cushioning effect for the application of your clutches and bands. Now, how hard these accumulators supply, like let's say I'm a given pressure to a device, is how hard the transmission will shift. Again, shift kits will take care of this. Some of the components in the transmission. Now, what made this transmission fail in the first place was the fluid wasn't given proper servicing. It wasn't changed too much, and the transmission also ended up overheating. You can tell this on the transmission if you look at the device called a torque converter, which is like a fluid clutch. I'll explain this in another movie. See, this one sort of like has a bluish sort of tinge to it. That meant that it overheated quite bad. And that cooks the additives and properties out of the fluid. And once that happens, you start to get wear in your, those washers that I was showing you. I might have to make some of them to replace, because you really can't find some of these washers for this transmission anymore. Torque converter over here looks a little bit rusty and dirty, but really it's in proper working order. It's in good condition, this one, because it never overheated. This one is perfectly serviceable. This comes from this Turbo 200 R4 that I have as an extra one. This one's in pretty good condition. This one can just be popped into a car with a little bit of servicing. That'll make a great spare if this one over here ends up blowing up on me. I sure hope it won't. Now, clutches and bands. Clutches. These are the clutches from a part called the forward clutch. You can see there's like little spots, a little bluing on these plates. That's again from the properties of the fluid being worn out from the overheating, and the plates themselves start to glaze. So the more they glaze, the more they end up slipping on you. That's a good use plate from another part of the transmission. This one didn't suffer as much apparently. That's a brand new plate over here for comparison. See, it has a little bit of roughness on it. Not much, but just so the plates can have a little bit of a bite to them. This is a used plate in good condition, a good friction disc. For comparison, a brand new one. How do these things work? You have them stacked together as such, rows of them. A hydraulic piston applies like we saw on that low reverse clutch, squeezes them together. Some are toothed inside, some are toothed outside. One to an outer drum, one to an inner drum. They engage, then they'll apply it to various elements in the transmission that'll give you gears. sun gears. That's how transmissions work, automatics. These spin around the planetary system in here. Very, very quick explanation. It's going to take forever to explain that. This is a ring gear. These are planetaries, and there's a sun gear inside of there. They turn against each other, and that's what gives you various gears, and that you're applied with certain elements inside the clutch, or inside certain clutch elements, some in the transmission. Another area of wear you got to look out for on these things. The splines on this input shaft of the transmission. This piece over here. This one's pretty worn too, and some is going to be replaced, but that's the part that we're looking at right now on the front pump of the transmission. They get worn on this particular make. You have to watch out for that, because if you shear off all the splines from this, you're really you're setting all sorts of metal particles throughout the transmission, and it can make a real mess out of things. The new pump has a brand new, what they call hardened stator support shaft on it to prevent that sort of thing from happening. Very good idea is to put an automatic transmission oil cooler onto the car as well too. This really helps to absorb a lot of the excess heat that a transmission throws off, especially with the more loose torque converter that I plan on putting onto this car. Now, to improve the shifts, I'm going to be putting a shift kit onto the car. It comes with different springs for different, like let's say, because the way these valves work is like they're fighting hydraulic pressure with a little bit of spring pressure and hydraulic pressure on the other side. So that says how fast or slow you might have a clutch engaging or a band engaging. That gives you the firmness or the softness of your given shift. Here's part of the main body inside the transmission called your forward clutch. You can see the plate stacked up inside the drum, and inside here it's stacked against the reverse-high clutch. There's more plates in this one because this one is what they call an active clutch, meaning that this one will always be applied under power, such as when you're shifting into second and third, and often under a lot of power, so you need more plates in there for what they call holding power. Now, giving you second gear in this particular transmission, you have a band. This is for second gear. The brand new band in the front, and you have a used one in the back that's actually, surprisingly, in this transmission still in very serviceable condition. But I'm not even going to be using this new band over here. I'm waiting to get what's called a Kevlar band. That'll give a little bit more bite on this drum. This wraps around here. This wraps around this drum. This is spinning like that. Goes on second gear, and it goes bang like that. It locks up. That's what gives you second gear for these transmissions. If the shift is long and slow, you can eventually end up burning the drum. This one was in very good condition. Like I said, very surprisingly for this transmission, because I really thought there was going to be a lot more wear inside of it given, but these are really not bad transmissions. With proper care, they will stand up. This is the device that applies second gear in these transmissions. It's called a servo. Little pieces in here, servos, pistons, a cup, and that's what gives you your lockup, and that's what gives you second gear in these things. Anyway, here's just a little tutorial on these transmissions. We're very, very fast, and it was all over the place, but quite literally everything is all over the place. But yeah, these things actually do run and go okay once I finish with them. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this little clip. Well, here's my first one I really attempted to make on this sort of stuff. So yeah, well, I'll be explaining more about the torque converters and other things in a later video. So anyway, thanks. Hope you enjoyed.